right. All right. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. It has been a minute. What's up, Space Junk? Good to see you. Hey, everybody in the Discord. Hey, Allie. Hey, Jason. Hey, Zeros. Daniel. Mike. Hamill. Good to see you all. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Oh, man. It's been a minute since I've been streaming, but we're back on it. I hope you guys like my new webcam. I'm having some technical difficulties in Discord with this webcam not connecting to you guys, so apologies for that. I'm doing well, Pedro. Good to see you. Stead, yes, it has, man. It has. The Good Dad Life. I'm loving your playlist right now. Thank you for the excellent information. I appreciate that, Good Dad Life. Smooth Criminal. First time tuning into a live. Have learned a lot about writing and different types of conflict from you, so thank you. Welcome to the live stream. What we're going to do today is listening at work. Don't tell my boss. What we're going to do today is, what we're usually doing, more Q&A. I'm going to be taking some questions from the YouTube chat, and I'm going to be taking some questions from Discord, and that is what we're going to be up to today. Also, I hope you guys enjoy my ring light. I don't know if you guys can even see that. Maybe that's just for me. Well, I got a little ring light on this new webcam. We're really streaming now. I've been off and on, back and forth. Are we streaming? Are we not? I know you guys have been messaging me and that sort of thing, but we are going to be streaming. I'm going to be streaming more regularly now. Yeah. So let's go ahead and hop in today. I think I saw a question in the YouTube chat here. And it was, let's see. Yes, so Stead, you had a question right at the beginning. Does every source of conflict in my TV show have to complement the theme? I think what you're asking is, if you're having even minor conflicts with characters, does it have to complement the theme? I think you need to just understand what the definition of theme is, and theme is the unifying idea of your entire story, right? So if you had like a design theme, right, thinking of theme outside of story, it would be, how are you unifying a space or a house, let's say, with a particular color palette or something like this? So the idea being that there is a unity, right? There's a oneness to the story that you're telling. And because of that oneness to the story, it means that it is going to overflow into the different conflicts that you're going to be having. So I would say it's not that you have to think deeply every single time characters are in conflict. You have to bang your head against the wall and say, oh, is this directly tied to my philosophical conflict or something like that? It's more making sure that the characters are the right characters for the theme you're expressing, and the world of your story is the right world of the story for the theme you're expressing, right? So if you looked at something like Star Wars, not like every single little moment isn't necessarily about the bigger theme, or like characters can have smaller debates or smaller discussions or these sorts of moments. But Luke Skywalker versus the Empire is the setup, right? Is the positioning for this clear story to take place. And so you may have scenes that feel a little less connected, but ultimately they all will be connected because you have set up the characters in the right world to then express this theme through your story. Super Teep says, just before any questions regarding story, I had one question about when are you going back to posting video essays? It's been a while now. That is a very good question. I see Bill is one-upping that question as well. The reason I have not been posting video essays is because So let's talk about this a bit. The reason I haven't been posting video essays is because so I've been building a skill, right? And the skill I've been building is working with writers to create great, complete screenplays, right? And so what my skill is in, I have been realizing more and more, is in that, right? Is in the development of story, right? In the creation of story and working with writers to develop a particular story. So I've been doing this through, I was doing that a lot through the video essays, right? Synthesizing some of my ideas and putting them there. I've also been doing this through my one-on-one coaching, which I do a lot of. And I've also been doing it through my writing tribe, which is essentially my group of writers that meets. It's been meeting 4 times a week for the last year, for about 2 hours a session. And we are developing stories together in that group. And so what I've noticed, if you look at channels like Thomas Flight or like Stories of Old or Lessons from the Screenplay, right? Some of these channels that are very kind of down the line video essay channels, they have been doing that, right? They have been getting good at the skill at creating strong video essays. And I have always kind of felt in between in many ways, right? I've always felt like I'm kind of in the in between because I don't even see myself as a video essayist. And my purpose was not to be a video essayist. Like, I enjoy making video essays on YouTube. I think it's something that can be fun to do. But that wasn't the skill I was trying to build. The skill I was trying to build is and has always been how to write a truly excellent screenplay. And so in pursuit of that goal, it has taken me away from YouTube a lot. And that's part of the reason that over the last few months, I put out the how to write a logline video. And then I think it was 3 months before I released another video. And then the next video was like the choices video. And that latest video that I have on my channel right now, that scene choices video, if you guys haven't seen that video, please go watch it, because that video was that has become more and more a cornerstone of my view on writing. And it's part of the reason I have been on YouTube less, because I did that logline video and I did that choices video, and that really blew open my sense for how a story's working. And because of that, I've been testing this over and over. So I made that video, that choices video, like 4 months ago or something like that. And then since that time, I have worked on probably 14 or 15 different stories. Most of those screenplays that working with writers, if some of them, I was using these ideas on a script that was actually getting sold. And so I was involved in punching up a script for some writers who were actually selling their movie. And I've been working on it with a lot of different writers in my writer tribe and in one-on-one coaching and this sort of thing. And so this is the long-winded way to say the skill that I have been building and my focus has been how to write a great screenplay, because I believe that long-form storytelling is the most powerful force of influence that you can do. And in the sense of it helps you understand yourself, it helps you understand the world, and it helps you communicate really deep and important ideas to other people. And so because of that, I have been like, I don't want to be just a YouTube critic, right? I want to help people write great stories, and I want to do that myself. And because of that, I've been posting less video essays. So instead of that, because I feel like doing the video essays at the level I want to do them, it takes so much time, whereas I may just do more and more of this, where I'm coming to you guys, I'm speaking to you through the live streams, I'm answering your questions, and I'm working in this way because the video essays take so long when I could just come in here and like talk to you guys, right? So that's the answer to the question. Now, with that in mind, I would love to hop over to the draw pad here. Let me see if this will let me do this. Hopefully you guys can see this in the Discord as well. And also, if you guys are watching on YouTube and you want to enter into the Discord, ask me questions with your voice and these sorts of things, then there is a link below for that. So, speaking of my latest video, that scene choices video, and speaking of video essays and this sort of thing, I have really been getting very close to what I think is the most clear version of my story view, from like the big perspective, and hopefully this is something that can be helpful to you guys. So, coming in here, so there's only a few real things that as I sort of go through the loop over and over again of working with writers, I noticed that like there's a few key hinge points that we're just hitting every single time, and if you can nail these key hinge points, then your whole story has a much better launch point. So the first thing is some version of like your big ideas, right? And that's going to be your philosophical conflict in your concept, right? So from the big idea of your story, right, we have sort of side A versus side B. You can also think of this as like your yin and yang. You know, if we had like, let's see if I can draw this yin and yang symbol decently. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll take that. I think that's a pretty decent yin and yang symbol. So, okay, the idea here is that in life, right, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There's a tails to every heads on a coin. Life is duality, right? Everything has two sides to it. So things that happen to you that are good in your life, there's also downsides to those things, right? Things that happen to you that seem bad in your life, there's also upsides to those things, right? So there's always two sides of every big dilemma, big debate. And then ultimately, you can think about like your story, all stories really are just a choice about this huge big idea that's being looked at in the story, right? And so this becomes your philosophical conflict and your concept, right? Like this sort of these big ideas where you're saying, okay, I'm going to have a big philosophical conflict that is going to express physically as, you know, the Empire versus the Jedi or something like this, right? So these are the big ideas. And you'll notice that this is immediately connected to the scene level, right? It's already connected to the smallest element of story, right? Which is choice and scene choices. So this is the big idea in the story, but then you come down and you say, okay, well, all these big ideas then distill down into scenes, right? And then individual scenes become the little choices that ultimately are expressing this big choice. Here's a way to think about this. If you're watching a sports game, let's say you're watching a football game, and so the Super Bowl happened recently, right? And so everybody's watching the Super Bowl, you know, all these people, it's a whole big thing, right? Okay, why are people watching the Super Bowl? Well, they're watching the Super Bowl because they're watching a debate about a choice, right? They're watching a essentially debate in action about a choice, right? What is the big choice of the Super Bowl, right? Who's going to win, right? Who will win the superb owl? So this becomes the big, huge choice, right? And at the final end of the game, right after we go through overtime, after we do all of it, you get to the end and somebody has won. And the final moment, right? That final decision in the game that becomes the climactic decision, right? Because the final decision that finally settles the conflict between these two sides that are back and forth, right? The yin and yang, the 49ers and the Chiefs, right? The conflict between side A and side B goes all the way down to one single climax, and that climax is the choice that essentially settles the debate at hand, right? Then within that, you have all these little choices, right? Every play in that game is going to be smaller choices, right? And so what's funny about like a sports game or a football game specifically, where's my like grab hand here? Whatever. Can I scroll down or go somewhere else? See, now I'm on PC and everything is hard. No, let me move it. Whatever. I'll just delete this. I'm already missing my trackpad. Okay. So in a football game, right, you're going to have 4 quarters, right? So if this is a football game, we've got Q1, Q2, we've got halftime, we've got Q3, and we've got Q4, right? And so if you can think about it, these are your acts, right? These are A1, this is A1, this is A2, A, or I need to, well, really, this is Act 2, this is Act 3, this is Act 4, right? So really you have 4 acts in your story. They're split at the halftime or the midpoint, right? And so then there's all these little choices in each act, and then each quarter ends, assuming if you were really writing it like a movie, each quarter would end with like a big play, right? It would be kind of big play at the end of quarter 1, big play to send us into halftime, big play right going into the fourth quarter, and then we have final climax of the game, right? Happens at the end. The final choice of the game happens at the end, right? So all stories are there. It's all about choices, right? So you set up this conflict between, one side versus the other, whatever that is, right? In a football game, it's just team 1 versus team 2, right? And then very easily, suddenly you have a character web, right? We've got a head coach on one side. We've got a QB. We've got all the other team. And then same kind of thing, right? We're going to have the head coach on the other side. And if you watch sports movies, you will see this play out this way, right? Like, you watch Remember the Titans, and we have, I think it's Coach Boone is our protagonist, right? He is the head coach of our team. And then it's him mainly against the school board, and then it's him against the other head coaches in the games that they're playing. And then you have this conflict, right? And then, right, fourth quarter, it's all on the line, right? Can we actually pull it off? That becomes your final climax. And then you have all these mini decisions leading up to that, right? So your story is the same at the big level as it is at the small level. I think when I say philosophical conflict, I know that's a big kind of like mouthful, but really it just means 2 sides, minimum 2 characters in conflict, right? We've got the white chess pieces versus the black chess pieces. We have team 1 versus team 2, right? The 49ers versus the Chiefs. Whatever it is that way. Noah says, I thought there were 3 acts, not 4 acts. Great question. There are 4 acts. Okay, there are 4 acts. I have referred to this middle section of a screenplay as 2A and 2B, specifically because I don't have my screenwriting books here. Specifically because that has been the dominant sort of Hollywood view of a screenplay and screenwriting, where the traditional, as Hamill saying, the traditional second act is twice as long as the first and third one, but that is just unnecessarily confusing. In reality, these are 2 separate acts. And it's very important to think about them that way, because really, this is the first story, and then this is the second story, right? You actually have 2 stories happening. So we have setup, we have payoff, right? Because even think about a football game, right? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens at halftime, right? What plays are made at halftime, who's leading at halftime, right? That's a big point. So this becomes its own little climax, and then we enter into a new setup act, which is its own act. This is Act 3 of 4. So I have referred to it this way because I thought it was more helpful, but as I realize, like these two acts, 2A, 2B, or Act 2 of 4 and Act 3 of 4, they are not that connected, right? They are separated. And so I think it's better to think of them as Act 2 and Act 3 rather than thinking of them as 2A and 2B, because it creates more of a clear separation, right? So I've shown you that. What you're setting up is these two big camps of conflict, right? Like that is what your concept is. That's what your character is. And those are the expressions of the conflict at hand, right? Of the thematic conflict, or of the worldview conflict, of the belief conflict, right? And remember, the Titans, they are using the concept of a sports team and a football team to show the dilemma between races, right? So that's a movie about school integration, and it's a black head coach leading a white football team, and then or it's an integrated football team and they're playing a lot of white teams, right? And so then it becomes this back and forth. So really, you can think remember this yin and yang. Like it's how your story is working, right? Like you have this duality, you have two sides in conflict. When you're going to have conflict, you have these two sides. And so then you fill these two sides with characters, right? We've got all these characters on one side. We've got all these characters on the other side, right? And so then these characters are all going to be their own expressions of the web and blah, blah, blah. But then these are our big, very clear two sides of conflict. And that is like the big picture, right? That sets up our board, right? We've got a head coach versus another head coach. We have this team versus that team and all of this. Then this connects directly to your scenes, right? Because now your scenes are your little versions of the choices that this big conflict has set up. And so then, really, all you have to do, all the pieces of a story really come down to are your, the setting up the board, right? Your philosophical conflict, your concept, and then where are these characters standing in between, right? You're going to have these all break up into two sides. So we've got side A of the philosophical conflict, side B, and same with the concept and the characters, right? So we've got, viewpoint 1, viewpoint 2. Then we've got, sort of protagonist and their character web, antagonist and their character web. And then this gives you the basic setup of the big picture of the story. And then once you want to set it in motion, then all you need, right, is story circles. And I know I talk a lot about that, right? Where we've got, Where we've got 4 acts. You're taking this and blasting this open into your story circles. And in the story circles, you're going to have problems and choices, right, that are big picture problems and choices. And then once you have that, then all you really have is the scenes, right? And each scene is a choice, right? So we just have all these choices. And then if you want to make a climactic choice, then what you're doing there is you're just bringing our conflict to its highest point, right? Where we have all our characters involved in this big, huge choice. And it's going to be for it all, right? So when you have, let me pull this up. One of my favorite, most easily seen, I'll pull this up here for a second. Climactic choices is in Lord of the Rings. So I'm about to spoil the end of Lord of the Rings for you, but the movies have been out for 2 decades, so it's time for you to watch them. Let's see. Here, let's see, climax scene. And I'm going to do my best not to get copyrighted like I seem to get every single time because Hollywood hates me. Okay. And right. Where are we at? Okay, so how are we looking? Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. Oh, yeah, I want to do this. Okay. So in this big old climactic sequence of Lord of the Rings, also, this is another thing, is I have a video essay like half done for this, that I've been trying to make a video on how to write a climax, and it will probably come out at some point. But I've redone it like twice, and I'm also working on like course material that will show you guys this perfectly. But anyways, in this scene, so this is the very end of Lord of the Rings. Or yeah, this is the climax of the third movie where we've got all our big characters all in one scene together. This is being a little slow for me, but show him. Okay. Now show my guy. Here we go. Right? Okay, so this is Aragorn. We've got Gandalf. We've got Legolas. We've got all these guys here in the back. Right? We've got a huge big climax here. And then, but really, the choice is Frodo's. And Frodo is, come on, where are we at? Okay, so this is a choice right here, right? Choose to attack. But where is Frodo? Final stand in battle. Is this just the battle? Come on, guys. You know I need Frodo. My goodness. Let's see. Frodo gets to Mount Doom. Here we go. Probably keep my volume off because I'm going to get copywritten like I am every single time. Okay, so now, here we go. Right, in this moment, Frodo has finally made it to Mount Doom, right? This is for a choice, right? So this climactic choice in the scene is, will Frodo destroy the ring? Right, that's what the entire climax is about, right? Is how is this ring actually going to get in this fire? The whole three movies are all about this one choice, right? In the same way that a football game or the Super Bowl is about the choice of, are the 49ers or the Chiefs going to win this game at the very end, where the entire story is leading up to this. It's the same way in these three movies, right? And so this is a great way that you can actually build your story, is to think, okay, what is my climactic choice? Where are we actually going here? Because if you know just what that climactic choice is going to be, it makes everything so much easier, right? And I could talk about this climax all day long because there's so many good elements to it. But ultimately, it's literally so simple as, is he going to throw this little piece of jewelry into this fire, right? It's really that simple. What's also great about this is the more you get an understanding of how story actually works, the more you can realize that you don't need a huge budget, right? Because really what you're looking at here, obviously this is a massive budget, right? They made these movies for hundreds of millions of dollars and blah, blah, blah. But what are you looking at here? You're looking at a character hold a ring, right? He's just holding a ring over something, right? Now, obviously it's a huge big set, right? And this would, this takes some budget, this big shot here. But fundamentally, this scene is about a guy throwing a piece of jewelry into some fire. And there's a lot of meaning, right? I know I'm playing down the meaning intentionally to show you that from a production standpoint, it's not that hard to say, okay, really what I need here, the most important elements of your story is going to be your characters and then the decisions that they're making and how you're expressing those decisions through important objects and important places. So here, really, the debate is Frodo versus Sam. Will Frodo throw the ring in the fire? Sam is on the side of, yes, what are you waiting for? Let's throw this ring in. Frodo is on the side of, well, maybe I want to keep it. And that becomes the whole dilemma of the scene, right? It's just about that scene choice. And so when you understand this, the most important things that you need to get to have a story that's like decently working is simply this. Oh, and I see I'm covering my thing here. Can I give me like a grabby hand? Where's my like connection? No. Select. No, I want to, yes. Oh, that's what we like. Oh, yeah. That's what we like to see. Okay. So, right, this is essentially it. Like all this mess, everybody is constantly overcomplicating their story. All I see all the time is people overcomplicating their story. And it's really more just understanding, okay, how does real life work? And then how am I emulating that in my story? Right? And then basically you have the basic setup pieces, right? What's my concept? Who are my good guys and my bad guys? Or who are my one side of the conflict or the other side, right? If you're doing a romantic story, let's say you've got the two people like Pride and Prejudice, right? You've got Mr. Darcy on one side, right? And you've got Elizabeth on the other. So then their worlds, right, become the two sides. So then Elizabeth has all these characters with her, right? She's got her sisters and her parents and her friends and all these people and the locations of where all those characters are at, right? So we've got all these characters. We've got characters here, right? All the characters that are related to Elizabeth, and then their locations, right? And that's essentially what set pieces are. It's just locations that we see regularly. So like the Elizabeth's family home is a set piece, right? Characters and set pieces on one side. Mr. Darcy has his world, right? He's got his set pieces and he has his characters. And this is just the basic setup of the story. And now we have this sense of, okay, what does Elizabeth believe? What does Mr. Darcy believe? They are the two highest points of power on their sides, right? That's how you get this sense of, like, whoever has to make the biggest decision, that's who has the power. So the reason that Frodo is the protagonist in Lord of the Rings is not because he's more powerful than Gandalf. It's because he's the one who has the power to destroy the ring, right? It is up to him to do this. Gandalf can't take the ring. Men can't take the ring. The elves can't take the ring. The dwarves can't take the ring. They can't agree on anybody to take the ring except for Frodo. And because of that, now Frodo is the protagonist because it is his choice to make. You are protagonist if you have the most important choice to make. Right? That is why a character becomes a protagonist. So here, Elizabeth is the protagonist in Pride and Prejudice because it is her choice whether or not to marry Mr. Darcy. Right? And that becomes the whole dilemma of the entire story. And the climax of the story is her saying yes. Right? Ultimately. And then characters branch off of that whose choice it is not. Right? So it is not Elizabeth's mother's choice on who Elizabeth marries. Because of that, Elizabeth's mother cannot be the protagonist. Right? But essentially, you just need these pieces up here. And then you need to understand how story circles work, which is really, really simple, ultimately. It takes some time to actually get used to, and people fight against clarity. But you get story circles, you get the understanding of your 4 acts, and you get the understanding that scenes are choices, and your climactic scenes need to be big choices. And each act, because a 7 is a climax in your story circle, each act is going to have its own little climax. And then your biggest climaxes are going to be your midpoint climax here and the climax of the whole movie here. That's 95% of it. right? And then we could say, oh, what about dialogue? What about action lines? This sort of stuff. Yeah, totally those things are important, but those things are so secondary to having this sense of what's actually going on in your story. What are you actually looking at thematically? And how is that being expressed? So hopefully that is helpful. If you're in the Discord right now and you want to ask me a question verbally, feel free to raise your hand. And if you are currently working on a story and you'd like to work on that story with me in the live stream, then raise your hand in the Discord and let me know. Stead asks, how do you implement subplots while using the story circle? I find it hard to do when using that method. Okay. So I think the term subplot can be a little bit confusing, but the best way to think about this, let's take a story circle here. Let me see if I'll just write one out. Okay. So we've got, wow, this is just so small. Let's open this up. Okay. So we've got our 1 character status quo. We've got our 2 character want. 3, this is going to be the inciting problem. 4 is going to be our, I think it's like debate and choice on how to solve the inciting problem. 5 is like want achieved. 6 is the surprise problem. And then 7 is the climactic choice. And then the 8 is new character status quo. Now, these are my words for these beats because I think they are clearer than what has been previously set out for them. Can I bring this back down? No, it's going to make everything smaller. Okay, I guess that's fine. Can I make this not bold? How much? Okay, great. Okay, so if you're thinking about your like subplots and stuff, right? Essentially what's happening, and this is how I've been doing this for the writers that I work with, how I set things up for them, and when we're discussing like subplots, these kinds of things, right? So let's say character status quo, we've got like main protagonist, right? We got this person, and then they want to, let's say, climb Everest, right? Let's just give them something to do here. And inciting problem, they don't know how to do it and need a team, let's say. Something like that. So then now we have protagonist recruits climbing team, and then let's say they set off to climb Everest. Right? Boom. Want achieved. We're now doing the thing we wanted to do. Surprise problem, let's say, gets stuck in an avalanche and the climbing team is scattered all over the mountain. And let's say our main protagonist is lost and must find their team, or let's say like rescue their team before descending down mountain. And then let's say climactic choice, the climax would be protagonist conquers fear and saves team. New character status quo, now protagonist no longer fears Everest. Let's say something like that, right? Okay. So now we've got all these story beats. We've got, let's say this is, this doesn't even need to be a screenplay. It's just a story. So now what happens is under these beats, right? So, yes, Danny Lamb, how do those major act choices correlate to the ultimate climactic choice? Great question. I am going to answer that for you. So under these beats, actually, I can just pull up my framework. So this is something else. People have been asking me, hey, why are you not on YouTube? Another reason I have been on YouTube less is because I'm building out like my story framework. It should be very, I'm almost done with this, and then I'm going to give it to you guys for free. So you guys can hop in and use it. Yeah, let me pull this up because I think this is just going to be the easiest way to explain this. What is my... Okay. One moment, I gotta log into my Gmail here. Okay. No. Okay. Let me in. Okay, here we go. Framework. Okay. Feature. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So this is my story framework. This is essentially like my view of story. This is going to be this, and this is the one for the feature. I'm also working on one for pilots, TV, both hour-long and sitcom, and I'm working on for shorts. And I'm going to give you guys these documents totally for free for the streams, so that you guys can come with these documents and use them and ask me questions like with them. As you can see, I've got some things that aren't finished here that I'm still working on, whatever. But what I'm trying to show here, and to answer your question, Stead, about how sort of subplots are working, right? Okay. What I do is I figure out my story circles, right? We've got act one, story setup, right? This kind of thing. Okay, we get a sense of our story circle. Okay, what are each of our beats in one line? Then, once I have the sense of my story circles, then I can come into my scene-to-scene outline, and now I'm placing scenes under my story circle beats, right? So like scene 5 and scene 6 are the expression of the two, right? So here in our little story, we've got our character who wants to climb Mount Everest. So now I've got a couple scenes showing that character who wants to climb Mount Everest. Now, let's say our character, let's name him Timothy. So Timothy wants to climb Mount Everest. Now, let's say there's a subplot. There's a girl also on this that Timothy's interested in, and maybe he wants to climb Everest to impress her or something like that, right? All you have to do is, like, the story circle beats are always the A plot, right? So like these beats need to be the main skeleton, right? Like this is the spine of your story, right? You can think of it this way. It's like the story circle is the spine of your story. This is always going to be the A plot. What you're doing is, if you have these other character relationships, right? When we're talking about subplots, we're usually just talking about the evolution of character relationships. And all you have to do is you just place those in the scenes under your story circle beats. So they're less, subplots are not as directly tied to the story circle structure. So if you're doing this, like if you're writing a feature film, then it's going to kind of feel like this, where you have scenes that are implemented in, and then you have your big story circle beats, and then you have your scenes under those story circle beats that are the expressions of all sorts of different character relationships, right? So you can have all types of subplots in the sense of many different evolving character relationships. That is different from doing something like what you see in a sitcom, where a sitcom will actually have an A plot and a B plot, right? Like you will actually have a circle that is your A plot, and then you're going to have a circle that is your B plot, right? Like this. And so then the A plot is going to take up, if we've got like a 23 page or 22 minute sitcom, this is probably going to take around 12 to 15 minutes of your runtime, and this is going to be like around 6 to 8 minutes of your runtime. Something within there. And those are actually separate plots, and therefore then they get their own story circles. Now, if you were doing this for a TV series, like not a sitcom, like an hour-long drama or something, what you're probably going to have, like if you're doing a Game of Thrones, you're doing something like this, you will have multiple characters that are important, pivotal characters taking action and doing things that may be fairly separate from our main protagonist for a while, right? Like Daenerys Targaryen is doing things that are fully separate from Jon Snow for 90% of the Game of Thrones story. Therefore, those characters will have their own story circles and their own flows, but all of the characters around Daenerys will not, right? They will fall under her because she is the most pivotal character. She is the highest decision maker, the highest choice maker in her character web when she is across the sea and she's, doing stuff over there. So that is essentially how that works. So I really don't think too much about how does my subplot fit into my story circles? It's like, you just worry about that on the scene level, right? Worry about that on the scene level once you're here. And then once you have scenes, like I have shown you here, then you can come down even further. And then you can actually, this is my scene formula that was placed in that latest video on my YouTube channel. And then you can literally go through all the scenes that you list above, and then you can literally break them open even more and say, okay, what's actually happening in these scenes? Get exercise. I do answer questions here on YouTube. But I would also love it if you join the Discord. I do not see any hand raises currently in the Discord, so I am going to keep going. Noah asks, are B plots needed? Do they enhance the story? They're not needed necessarily, but they can enhance the story. I wonder if I can find this. There's a video I'm going to try to find for you guys real quick. Let's put this over here. Maybe I get copyright on this one. We'll see. This one is on Adult Swim. It's a Dan Harmon video. So maybe they let me show it. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to try to show this video, and hopefully I don't get copyright hit. And I'm going to show it with some audio. Let me know if you guys can hear this. But this is Dan Harmon looking at how an episode of Rick and Morty works, and it works like this here, right? Where there's an A plot and there's a B plot, and it follows this way. He kind of takes you through the circle. Let's watch. So that's how it works. I would say a subplot is going to be something you are adding into pre-existing story circle structure on the scene level. If you have a subplot, it just falls in on the scene level, and you don't have to think about it as a part of your act structure. If it is its own B plot, like we see where Jerry has his own adventure, then it is a separate thing and therefore deserves its own circle. Miko tells Art, I think that in order for subplots don't feel disconnected, their story circle points have to match with the ones of the main story circle. You just need, I wouldn't think about them. Like, you don't need to think about, I mean, yeah, there's going to be a circle there, but I don't, like, I think it's better to just think about character relationships more than the term subplot. I think the term subplot is vague. Miko tells Art says, what do you think of the Enneagram as a tool to give different motivations and character arcs to characters? It's a concept I discovered in a video of Local Scriptman. Yes. I know about the Enneagram. I think the Enneagram is an interesting personality tool. You can learn more about the Enneagram at Enneagram Institute. Yeah. The Enneagram Institute. Yeah, so then they have like 9 types. Learn. You can learn at where's the type descriptions? Yeah, so you got like different. So what's interesting about this is I think it can be useful to learn about yourself a little bit. Like, Tara, I just want to say thank you for everything you do, Tyler. I've had amazing success with the prescription. Thanks, Tara. I'm glad you enjoy it. Finished my first novel and working on 2 more. Excellent. Very, very, very good. Excellent. So, yeah, I like the Enneagram. This is a good website to learn about it. I would suggest you kind of like read through the types to learn which type you feel like you identify most with. And what's good about the Enneagram is you have some of these elements like basic fear, basic desire. I think these ideas are and key motivations as well, right? Like these are elements that you could very, very easily use to build a story, right? So a character having a basic fear of being corrupt or evil and a basic desire to do good or have integrity, key motivations, wanting to be right, strive higher, improve everything. These are the kinds of things you could use. If you guys want to know my type, I am an 8 on the Enneagram. I am the challenger. So basic fear of being harmed or controlled by others, basic desire to protect themselves and to be in control of their own life and destiny. And so specifically, I'm an 8 with a 7 wing. So I've definitely looked into the Enneagram pretty closely. They've got also, this is a fun part of the website where they've got examples of people. So I got Tony Soprano in here, which is fun. Jack Nicholson's in here. Donnie T is in here. Picasso's in here. But yeah, I like the Enneagram. I think it's a cool tool. Okay. Tyler Maury in the Discord, Tyler Maury's Beast asks, is it possible to have only pivotal scenes in a film? Does that make it better? How do you raise the stakes with a larger story arc then? Okay. So this is a fun question. Let me grab it and place it on here so that you guys can see what is being asked. So, is it possible to have only pivotal scenes in a film? Is the question. Does that make it better? How do you raise the stakes with a larger story arc then? Okay. So, there's kind of there's 2 pieces to this question. I think you've got a question about stakes and you have a question about like, okay, is it possible to have only pivotal scenes in a film? So this word here, it really depends on what you mean by pivotal, but the short answer is no. It's not possible to only have pivotal scenes in a film. because you need buildup, right? Like you need contrast. So let's say if we've got Lord of the Rings here, what makes this moment right at the end so huge, right? Where we have the, throw the ring in the fire. What makes this moment so big is the fact that we have spent so much time to get there, right? So it's like the amount of time you put into something also increases its meaning, right? The more time we spend with characters, they become more meaningful to us. The more time we spend solving a problem, that problem becomes more meaningful. And so really, you can't really have everything be super pivotal, top tension, because that's what you get if you get like a Michael Bay movie where everything feels like everything feels like it's right at the top, but you need an ebb and flow, right? Like you need an up and down if you're actually going to have something that is going to feel natural. And so really your acts, just from like the feeling level, you usually will have, let's see, how do I draw this? So if we've got, like your 3, your 5, your climax. So this is one act. I'm showing you one act here. This is going to be our 3. This is going to be our 5. This is going to be our 7. So this is, so when we start off, right, we're usually going to be fairly down here. We might have a cool opening scene that plops us in, and then we kind of come down. Then we're going to have this problem, right? We get some tension raise at the 3. Now we got to solve that problem. Now we're a little higher up. We get to the 5. Great. Looks like we solved the problem. Oh no, this is our 6. Huge problem now. And now we got to solve that at the 7. And then we come back down for the 8. And so this is why, like, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to put on the screen here, but like, this is why this becomes your setup. Like the first half of your act or the first half of your story, because it all fractals, it's all the same, like big as it is small, right? As above, so below. So you have this setup zone, right? We have our first problem. We have our character want here. We have our first problem. We have our choice to solve that problem. And then we have, plan works, right? Yay, plan worked. Then we've got the pivotal problem. And now we are having pivotal scenes, right? Like now we have a pivotal problem and a pivotal choice here. And so then these become, and usually this part is the same scene, right? Like you have your climactic movement all in the same scene. So yeah, you cannot have only pivotal scenes. You need setup. It sets the tone so that you have contrast, right? Like if you start these scenes lower tension, right, as I've kind of shown here, and then we go up, now the audience can feel the difference. But if you just start right up here, well, we don't feel anything else. We don't feel the baseline. And so then this doesn't actually feel that high tension because you haven't built the setup baseline to then go up to that point, right? It's just like if you just started screaming and you just kept screaming, it's like that's going to not be, anything pretty fast. But if you start really quiet for a long time and then suddenly somebody screams, right, then it's going to sound super loud. So, when are we going to see a short film or work from you? Good question. I had some short films up on the channel a while back, but they're all really poor. I mean, if you want to read something of mine that's, not great, you can read the screenplay I wrote for my 48-hour video. But the script I'm working on right now, I'm absolutely not making public. So, Stevenson Johnson requested to speak. Awesome. All right, let me pull you in, Stevenson.
Hello?
Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear
Perfect.
me?
I sure can. How are you?
A bit groggy at the moment. I actually just woke up.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But I had to pull an all-nighter, so slept in, like, just woke up late.
Oh yeah, what were you
I'm
working
doing
on?
good, man. Well, you see, I'm a character designer, so I've been up all night designing my own characters for like my stories that I plan on writing in the future.
Okay,
So yeah.
very cool.
But thank you, man. How you been?
I've been well, man. What's your question today?
Well, okay. I've been struggling with this issue with my like themes and morals slash philosophical conflicts in my potential stories.
Okay.
How can someone write stories that have similar or the same theme slash moral slash philosophical philosophical conflict without the stories becoming bland or repetitive?
I think a lot of that just comes down into the world of the story that you're building, as well as the fact that you are the only Stevenson Johnson to ever exist, in the sense of you have your unique life experience that no one else has. So what I find a lot of times with writers, especially writers that are like trying to please Hollywood and this sort of stuff, is they're
Hmm.
always looking for what's the trendy thing to write about, or what's the topic that they should write about, or all these things that are getting away from them being an authentic storyteller. And what I think is going to be your best story is the one that is bringing as much from your real life experience as possible. And so, like, for example, there was a writer yesterday that I was speaking to in my writing group, and he's worked on, I think, four different TV pilots over the course of kind of me knowing him and working with him in writing. But this latest one was about a place that he specifically worked at, and it was a um, a setting. He's doing this sitcom at a setting that was very just so naturally expressive of the philosophical conflict he wanted to talk about. Like the two themes in conflict were just so clear. And I think it was working so clearly because it was based off of his personal lived experience. And so I think like I don't think there's a need for you to be worried about being bland if you are being authentic and if you are actually writing about moments in life that make you uncomfortable, right? Like there are probably things in your life that have happened that you would prefer not to talk about publicly, but those are the things that really shape you, inform you, and mold who you are. And I think that in many ways, almost like writers should not be thinking about how they're going to sell their story when they start writing it. I think that first and foremost, writing is a tool that you use to organize your thoughts, your feelings,
Hmm.
and your personal experiences. And if you do that, then it will naturally be unique because there's no one who has actually had the exact life experience that you have had.
Okay, gotcha. And what about like if like my stories and slash or theme or moral of my stories are becoming repetitive?
Um, how so? Can you give me some more context?
Okay, well, I'm not sure like how I don't know how familiar you are with anime. Like how familiar you are with anime.
I've seen some animes. I've watched Death Note, One Punch Man, Full Metal Alchemist,
Hmm.
Brotherhood, um, maybe one or two more. I've seen what's that older one that like everybody's watched, like the '80s? They're in the spaceship. Um,
I'm not sure. I think you might be talking about Cowboy Bebop, but
yes,
I'm
I
not
am.
sure.
Cowboy Bebop. That's correct.
Oh, okay. Well, you see, like my like stories are kind of like animes, and to be more particular, like shonen anime, and shonen anime tends to be geared towards teenage men, teenage boys, and young adults. So
Mm-hmm.
it tends to be a lot more action based.
Okay.
And in anime, a lot of fights. Well, it depends what anime you watch, but good anime where they have fights,
Mm-hmm.
physical fights.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason behind like the fights and the stakes in the fights, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, my themes revolve around enduring and overcoming adversities, making one stronger
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to endure them,
Mm-hmm.
and humility versus arrogance.
Mm.
And I've seen like these themes throughout a lot of my favorite animes, and even though they can be very impactful, I find them to be repetitive. But I don't have a problem with it because it's a very good theme,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a theme worth retelling because it's a very good life lesson.
Definitely.
But I want to know how I can, Mhm. but I want to know how I can like have those similar themes in my stories without them becoming bland and repetitive because that's what I'm trying to work on.
Well, if
And
you're
those themes are also resonate with me.
mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think if you're watching multiple stories about these themes and they're resonating with you, I don't see any reason why you can't tell a story with these things from your perspective.
Okay, okay.
I
Um,
I think there's I
you
think
might. Oh, go ahead.
the sense of like a theme being bland or repetitive or something like this, like a lot of your originality is going to come from being specific, right? So like this is again
Mhm.
why I really believe in any real life experience that you can bring into your story is going to make that story that much stronger because you can be specific in a way that other people can't be for your life and
Gotcha.
for what has happened with you. And so I think that I don't believe in this idea that you can't tell a story or that it's going to be bland because someone else has already covered that theme. What I have found doing what I'm doing on YouTube and is like I thought when I first got onto YouTube I would just have to talk about these concepts once or twice and then people would get them, right? But in reality I found that like
Mhm.
as I developed my story framework and my view of story, then it is repetition, right? Because not
Mhm.
everybody has seen all the animes that you've seen, right? Most people haven't. And so you can absolutely
Yeah.
find people that have not seen other work or maybe they have seen that work and they want to and they like those sorts of themes, right? Like, and I'm a big
Mhm.
believer in uplifting themes. Like, you're not gonna
Yes.
find me making some character wants to kill themselves type story. Like, I think
Same here.
a lot of that is just a bunch of crap. But so yeah, I think I don't see any reason that you can't take a theme that is uplifting and strong and make and do your take on that theme.
Okay, gotcha. Because like one of my biggest like struggles with like my morals, like the moral story, like for example, like for one of my philosophical conflicts, between like revolves around humility versus arrogance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in most of my stories I'm developing, it like these stories evolve around like two like different types of warriors. One is very strong or have a powerful ability,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result, they become very arrogant, and they meet a seemingly weaker opponent, but that opponent is a lot more humble and smarter, and they might have an ability that surpasses their opponent, but they keep it under wraps. They don't flaunt it. And the way I execute that conflict is I have these characters fight, and I have the humble character always beat the arrogant character using, their wits, their intelligence, and using their special ability whenever, like to surprise the arrogant warrior, and
Mm-hmm.
they always defeat them at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I always found those stories, well, the way I write them, I always found it to be impactful but repetitive. But you see what I'm saying? So I just had problems trying to like spice it up, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I see that. I think there's two ways to spice it up. One will be studying other stories, right? Like seeing how other people take these themes and do them in an interesting way. But the most important way, and my personal favorite, is how are you in your own life going after things or reaching for things or building yourself, going for more? How are you actually going on your own real life adventures in a way where you can bring more of that authenticity back to the story? Because I think a lot of times writers struggle with feeling like their ideas are general or their ideas are bland simply because they haven't tried very many things, right? They haven't actually gone out on a limb. They haven't had their own story circle. They haven't gone on an adventure. But if you have, then I would say, what in those things have happened? What in your life has happened, and how can you use your own personal experiences to shape the stories that you want to tell?
Okay, gotcha. Because I'm sure you're familiar with underdog stories,
Mm-hmm.
and because those stories are very relatable and people love them, even though they tend to be repetitive. But there's a reason why they're repetitive. That they're
Mm-hmm.
still very impactful.
Right.
So I'm also very inspired by those types of stories as well. I try to like how to say integrate like themes from those type of stories into my own stories.
Excellent.
Last question. I hope I'm not, you know,
No,
taking up too
please.
much of your time.
Please.
Um, this question, I don't know how to properly like say it, but I hope you really like get what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Um, I struggle trying to come up with the proper term for my philosophical conflicts.
Okay.
Like there are times where I'm able to like figure out what the conflicts are, but I don't know the proper terms for them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't come. I just can't come up with a good example, but I hope you know what I'm saying. I struggle trying to figure out exactly what term fits my philosophical conflicts,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Well,
don't know how to find those terms.
sure. What are some of the ones you're using now?
Well, mm, I always said one of them, humility versus arrogance, but that's very easy to figure out the terms for
Mm-hmm.
those conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
But again, one of my themes revolves around enduring and overcoming adversities and how basically pressure can create diamonds
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean. But I don't know how to find like the proper terms
Sure. So,
for those
like
conflicts.
resistance versus pressure, or
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you
yeah,
see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Okay, go, that's sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I saw to cut you off, but I was saying yes, that's exactly what I need. Keep going.
Perfect. Yeah, like resilience versus pressure, resistance versus pressure, um, something like that. I think don't oh, don't overcomplicate finding the exact right word. Right. The philosophical conflict
Okay.
and stuff is it's meant to be a helpful tool. I don't want it to be a hindrance where you're bashing your head against the wall thinking, oh, what is the exact perfect way? Like, definitely you want to get something that's workable and usable, but it's also like part of the reason that you tell a story in the first place is because it is hard to fully express exactly what it is you want to talk about in just a couple of
Mhm.
words. But you can use these, like resistance versus pressure or something like this as a way to start the story up, and then you can say, okay, where do our characters generally fall in this big idea, sort of these two big ideas, resistance versus pressure, let's say. And then you can make the
Mhm.
characters within those two big categories more and more specific as you go forward. And then that really continues to flesh out fully what you want to talk about, and it allows you to create all these interesting choices throughout the story.
Okay, man. Excellent, excellent. Thank
Cool.
you so much, man, for your help. I truly appreciate it, man. I missed
Absolutely.
your live streams, man. When you gonna be when you gonna be back?
I mean, I'm back right now, man. I might be streaming again tomorrow. My hope is to go to like a lot more weekday streams. I'd really like to do more weekday streams around this time. So, um, we will see.
Because we definitely need your yeah, we definitely need your help and input, man. It's very, very informative.
I
I
appreciate you,
truly
man.
appreciate it,
I
man.
appreciate you, man. Well, you have a great rest of your day. I'm gonna move on here to Hamill. I see that he is hopping in. Hey, Hamill, how are you?
Mm. Hey, Taylor.
How are you?
I'm good.
What's your
Good,
question
good.
today?
I've been okay. Okay, it's a question about world building.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So do you think that you have to make or develop the world building of a world, whether it's a magical one or one set in reality? Do you think that you have to develop it once you have developed all the major plot points of a series, all of the things you want to do? Or is it more helpful to have the basis of the story, but then develop a lot of world building and elements that you can later use in in the series or in the rest of the story? So basically the question is making the world building at last, or making it like an element you develop as same as the story instead of leaving it to the end.
Yeah. So I think it what I found is it's mainly there's not really a super systematic way to think about that. I think you kind of work on what makes the most sense to work on at any given point. So if we come to my screen here, when I'm working with writers, I'm working with them inside like a framework that looks something like this, right? Where we actually have these different pieces built out. And when I'm doing that, I'm bouncing around, right? So I may come in and I might look and I start, okay, what's kind of like the philosophical conflict that we're looking at here? What's our concept? I might see, okay, who's our characters? That might make me interested in, as we're working on a story, I might say, oh, wait, I have an idea for your midpoint. And then I might come down here and like throw down some ideas for what the midpoint is going to be. And then it's like, oh, wait, maybe we have that idea about a set piece or a piece of the world. And then we come up here and work on it. So I think it's not so systematic, like you have to work on your plot first and then you can work on your world building, or you must work on your world building first and then you work on your plot. What I'm doing a lot of the times when I'm working with writers is just figuring out where are they right now, right? What was the last thing you worked on, and then just pick back up on that and just spend time in the project, right? So if you're just spending time in your project, you will be working on some of the world building. And then while you're doing that, it will likely give you some ideas for plot. And so then you might come over and work on plot for a while. And that might give you another idea for, okay, well, I need a new town in this. And so now let's go back to world building. What is this town going to look like? Who lives there? So I don't think there's a particular exact way that has to happen. What I do think is having a sense of like a framework, right? Having a sense of the backdrop, having a sense of the skeleton that you are building towards can be very helpful. But then I believe in having the freedom to be able to bounce around and say, okay, I'm going to work on my set for a little bit, or I'm going to work on a set piece, or I'm going to work on my circles, or I'm going to work on the world building. Whatever sort of feels in flow.
All right. All right. Okay. As you say this, I think that maybe one key to make the world building is making the world building united to the world building is united to the theme. For example, if the theme is about detecting lies, is about detecting lies and about finding truth, maybe if it's a fantasy world, then you introduce a spell that has to do with creating illusions or with forgetting things or erasing memories. So basically, your magic or your things in your world have to do with the theme lies and truth.
Totally. Yeah, I think having a sense of your theme at the very beginning is going to be super helpful, because all that means is the single thing that is unifying your entire story, right? That's what you're looking for in your theme, is like, what is the ideas, what is the conflict that is unifying this entire story together. And so absolutely that's going to have a huge impact on your world building.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And Isa, I saw your hand raised, but it is down again. Let me know if you want to ask another question. Let me catch back up with the YouTube chat here. How to build a hook. I'm seeing a question about how to build a hook. Like an opening teaser. Is that what you're asking about? Like how to build an interesting teaser? Thanks, Matthew. I appreciate it. Hey, Tamana. Good to see you. Zebra, what is this? Just started watching. This is... We're hanging out. We're talking about story. Oh, here we go. Isa, if you're ready to speak. Isa 2, I think is how you say your name. Not quite sure. How many scripts have I sold? 0 of them. Some of my clients have sold screenplays. I have not sold screenplays to Hollywood, and I don't plan to. Isa, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How do I say your name?
Yeah, it's Aisha too.
Aisha too. Okay, perfect. What's your question today?
Yeah. My question is, when writing your screenplay at the resolution, can can you kill your hero at the resolution?
Sure. Why would are you trying to kill your hero in your story?
Not really. That is how I want the story to look like. The story is just kind of like a historical film. So at the end of this story, the hero is killed because a group of people have joined hands to betray her. So she have to die at the end. So I'm asking whether I could use the same thing like the real story is in the screenplay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely kill a character at the end, for sure. Did you have any other questions, or was that it? All right, I think we're losing Aisha.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. That was it? Okay.
Yeah, that is it.
Perfect. Yeah, you can definitely have a character die at the end. Absolutely. And I think it'll be even stronger if it's directly related to your climax as the reason they die, whether they die in the climax or because of it. It should be tied to that. But yeah, you can definitely have your main character die.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. David. Well, it's been a minute since I've spoken to David. Oh, maybe not. There we are. Hey,
Hello?
David. How are you?
Oh, nice to hear you again. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well.
That's
How's
great.
Italy today?
Yeah, it was really good weather. We are, approaching spring, so it's
Excellent.
it's great. It's
That's great.
not actually it's not because we are still in February, so it's it's kind of a big problem here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry because I haven't been around so long, but I had work problems and blah blah blah,
No worries.
and now I'm trying to begin again with the adventure of writing. As I don't know if you remember, I was trying to write. I used to write. In contained spaces.
I
Okay,
remember.
so okay, and now I would like to try to write my first road movie.
Okay.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we will have a contained space that is moving, a car
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and. I have a question about the philosophical conflict because, of course, is the main important thing in a story. So all the questions should be, of the philosophical conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and how often and how easily can you change the philosophical conflict during the process of writing? I mean, because the problem that I am, facing, I don't know if it is correct, is I start that my idea would like to talk about something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my philosophical conflict right now is mm, is good or bad to be stick at traditions, okay, or is better to let things go, okay. So the characters are two sisters. Of course, one is impersonating one side of the conflict and the other
Mm-hmm.
side, and they need to bury their dead mother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, their dead mother.
Mm-hmm.
So they go with the dead mother in a journey and blah blah blah. Mm, but I'm not so sure that this is the philosophical conflict, the final philosophical conflict.
Okay.
Because I don't know if and how often and how easily should I and change it or not. And this, if you think this is a philosophical conflict itself, it's good to change philosophical conflict, or it's better to stick with it.
Well, I think you're always honing in your story. I think so. In that sense, you can definitely have a changes in your philosophical conflict. Like it's always able to be changed, right? Like you can always make changes.
Okay.
It's just about understanding what those changes will mean for how the story is playing out. So if you have, if you make major changes to your philosophical conflict or, the theme you want to express, it's going to have ripple effects in your scenes and in the story flow. And maybe even
Yeah.
like you have certain characters now that you didn't have before. You remove certain characters or all these different things. So I think like all of the pieces of your story can be malleable, like can be changed, can be adjusted, can be grown, can be improved. It's just about understanding what that will mean for the different pieces of the story, right? So, kind of coming back to my framework document here, if you're changing like your concept, which you're not, right? I'm assuming you're still using the same road movie concept here.
Yeah, I'm trying to to have some barrier not to cross, just to force me to work inside this.
Totally.
This. So I would, yeah. So I would like to keep the road movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just understanding that the biggest like bedrock foundational pieces of your story are going to be your concept and your philosophical conflict, right? The actual external story world and the themes that are being talked about inside that world. And so it's just understanding that when you do that, when you change your philosophical conflict, then you will need to say, okay, how does that come down and how does that affect my key characters? How does that affect my four corner opposition and how they're related to each other? How does that affect my side characters? How will that affect my set pieces? How might that affect my structure, right? So you just understanding that, you know, there's pieces that are bigger pieces and pieces that are smaller, right? So if you're changing a big piece of your story, that's going to have more ripple effects. If you're changing a smaller piece of the story, then it is of course going to have smaller ripple effects in the script.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, that's clear. Of course, you're right. I mean, it's it's something that is has its own life. The process, and I have troubles to understand when I have just a single philosophical conflict and I have multiple, and I don't want that, okay, because I don't want to create a mess in my story.
Mm-hmm.
And not always I can identify the two sides of the philosophical conflict. For example, another philosophical conflict that I would like to talk about in this story is do the things that you want until you are in time. Okay, don't wait.
Say that again.
Just do that.
Say it again for me.
Do what you want in life till you have time. Don't wait too much. Don't waste the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because you have not the control of your life, okay? Right. Totally. Right. You don't. Okay. So I cannot see the conflict in this, okay? Because it's so clear to me that is, the only way you should live, okay? Mm-hmm. That sometimes is difficult for me to identify the two sides of the conflict.
Totally. Yeah. So you're saying, like, how are you actually beefing up the other side of this?
Yeah.
So the one side is pretty obvious.
Exactly.
Where it's like,
how can I have an idea and identify these two sides of the conflict? That's the main difficult thing for me.
Yeah, so on one side you kind of have, and if I'm writing on the whiteboard, if you want to take a look here as well, it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Discord. Okay, great. So yeah, you kind of have like do things now, take action now. Don't wait is kind of one side of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: what about patience? Right now, we immediately, even with patience, now you can have this other side immediately, right? What is it about patience that makes it a virtue? What is it about waiting and not doing things now that can be of value to us? What is it about, are there times where it does make sense to put things off and how that is of benefit to us? So I think patience is probably the best way to think about the other side of your conflict here.
Yeah, you're right. It's it's definitely it have its own reason to live this kind of thoughts, even to build something, to be sure to do something in proper way, and it has its value as well. You're right. And I think I lost connection.
No, I'm here. I hear you.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah. And yeah. You're right. I think that it's to find the two ways of the political conflict is, for me at least, is the main things that gives me the problems.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that's,
for me at least.
That's why I think that's one of the reasons I think that even if you never sell a script or you're not able to make a movie or any of
No,
this
yeah, I
stuff that
don't
people
care.
talk about, it's like
Absolutely, I don't care.
it's such a great, like, even thinking, like, forcing yourself to think in this sense of duality, right? In this sense that, okay, if I have
Yeah,
one, positive side of a theme, right? And that, do things now, take action, don't wait, live your life, right? Okay, that's all positive stuff. What's the other side of that positively, right? What would be the opposite positive, right? Which would be patience, right?
yeah,
Actually doing that. And then you can think about the negative of both sides, right? Okay, what is the negative about
yeah,
doing things now? How does, in the sense of, like, maybe you could say it's rashness, right? Like taking action
yeah,
too quickly, being too, jumping at every single opportunity, not having any control of what you do and don't say no to, right? That would be the negative of what you're saying
yeah,
there. And then, you have the negative of like the patient side, which might be, waiting too long, being inactive, never
yeah,
actually
yeah. You
getting
never
that
do
point.
what you want. Yeah,
Totally. Yeah. And so then
absolutely.
if you kind of look at it this way, then
That's
now
great.
you've got this, like, now, you got this kind of four-way back and forth here to think about, okay, well, who is my patient character, right? Who is the representative of patience here, right? And then who's the representative of the inactive character, right? The person that always says no, and maybe they even think they're patient, but in reality, they're just inactive. Who's the character that is rash? Who is our rash character, right? Who makes decisions too fast and it hurts them? Who's our character that,
Yeah,
can be spontaneous, but, and does things now and does take that action and tries to live in the present in the good way. And so then this is kind of how you can now, like, characters are literally the symbols of the different beliefs in your story. They are walking, talking symbols of belief, right? That's kind of what we are. We are the collection of the beliefs that we hold. We are the walking, talking collections of the beliefs that we hold, right? That's what our soul is. It's our collection of beliefs. And so,
yeah,
yeah, hopefully that, if you can see this on the board here, hopefully that is helpful to
yeah,
you.
yeah. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. And last question, I promise. Is no, because I feel guilty,
No, no worries.
because
Don't feel
I'm asking
guilty.
so many
This is what this is here
so
for.
many questions.
No worries.
Okay. Is it a mistake to have the characters who pass, you embrace, the new way of thinking and blah blah blah? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
not totally. I mean, actually, it kind of goes against the dual way of thinking, and I'm not so sure that I want to my characters to say, okay, no, what I was thinking before is garbage. This is the good way to think,
Mm-hmm.
to live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure I want that. I'm not so sure they, completely reject the way they used to think.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
am
what they will
okay.
do is they will make a choice that shows their
Okay.
new belief, right? So rather than them
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I'm,
No, of course, of
I'm going
course.
to do this," it's more just setting up, how are you setting up a choice where, let's say, like, for example, let's say we've got your inactive character here, right? The sort of bottom right
Okay.
of this little character web I've built out. If you wanted
Mm-hmm.
them to have the possibility of an arc, what we simply do is give them a super important choice, right? A pivotal choice where they're either going to choose to be inactive and choose to stay in that belief, or they're gonna choose to be active, right? They're gonna choose to take this opportunity that's in front of them. Let's say it's they're gonna let's say you've got somebody in America and they're gonna take a trip to Rome, right? They're gonna take a trip to Italy. And
Okay.
they've never been out
Okay.
of the country ever before, right? And they're scared of it or this sort of thing, and they
Okay.
always make up an excuse. Oh, I don't have the money or whatever. And then they finally, let's say our spontaneous character comes to our inactive character with an all expenses paid trip to Rome, Italy. Now this inactive character has a choice to make. Are they going to change their beliefs in the external physical world and go on this trip, therefore moving up the character web into the spontaneous character's position, right? Or are they going to stay in their current position? And that's what we have, a flat arc, right? If they choose to stay, that's a flat arc.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And we don't want that. Absolutely don't want that.
I guess it just depends on the type of character that you have, right? So let's say the spontaneous character is our protagonist, and we're gonna watch them go on this awesome adventure throughout the story. Then they're gonna do that. If they come up to this inactive character and they say, "Hey, go on this with me," and the inactive character says no, then that's fine. Like, that can totally work for the story. We have this moment where we have the expression of the belief of the inactive side, right? Because the inactive character is not just going to say no, they are also going to present what? Their argument, right? Their argument as to why they're making the choice that they're making. And so what happens is then you get this situation where, you've got this choice. You've got, let's say, spontaneous character on one side. We've got our inactive character on the other. And then now we have this choice, which is go on the trip or not. And then they're going to say, they're on the side of yes. Inactive character's on the side of no. And now the inactive character is going to give their argument as to why they're not going to go on this trip, right? Because the spontaneous character, if they say no, the spontaneous character is going to say, well, why are you not coming? And when they say why, well, now the inactive character has the opportunity to actually express what they think, right? Express what they believe, or make excuses, right? That's the same kind of thing. Making excuses is just arguing your position, right? And so that's what you have there. And that's also how now then this immediate choice becomes the way that the characters can actually talk about what they believe, right? Because bad writing usually ends up where the characters are just talking about what they believe for no reason, right? There's no reason that they have to talk about this right now. But if you're going to make something that has strong, strong conflict, the way you do that is there's immediate decision that needs to be made right now before we can leave the scene, right? Are you coming on the trip with me or not? Now this is where it actually makes sense and the story is correctly motivated for the characters to express what they think. Well, I'm not going on this trip because of this, or I have these responsibilities, or this is a stupid thing. You're not going to find what you want in Rome, blah, 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 blah. And so then it makes sense why the characters are giving their argument, because there's a choice that has to be made right now.
Okay. I understand that it is great.
Perfect.
And just a question: is there a way to have you have the recordings, right, of this
of the streams?
Streams, the streams.
Absolutely.
Is there?
If you go to youtube.com/Tyler Mowery, I'll do this for you now if you're looking at my screen, and then you go to the live tab here. Wow, look, we're live right now. That's crazy. If you go to the live tab here, then you will see these are all the previous stream recordings. And
that's
then
great.
The latest one will be right there.
Okay. Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you, Tyler. I know, right, that I hate you because you are a genius and I am not. You know that. Okay. I just want you to know that. Okay.
Thanks, David.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day, man.
Thank you
Good
so
to talk
much.
to you.
You too.
All right. Wow, it looks like we're getting a queue in here. Let's bring up Jason. Jason, what's going on, man?
Hey, Tyler.
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you as well.
What's your question today?
I'm having a little trouble with, I guess this is a general concern, not really specific with the story, but I don't exactly know where to begin. I've tried I've been trying to think of how to start this. I tried to start 2 stories by focusing on philosophical conflict and then doing a 4-corner opposition. But then I realized I can't really put in characters because I don't know the right kind of profile.
Okay.
So, what would you? I guess what I'm just trying to ask is, what would you consider the best way of starting out on a concept?
Well, let's do it. Talk to me a little bit about your story. Let's work on it.
Sure. I don't exactly have a log line yet. I'll work on it after this is over, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Talk to me a little bit
Okay,
about
so
the story.
sure. So it's about this kid who's pretty antisocial. Like, he doesn't have any friends. He's only ever close with his family and his pet cat. And then one day his cat winds up dying
Okay.
because she gets run over.
Okay.
And so Adam, while grieving, goes out on a walk in the forest, and I don't know exactly how, because every single thing I try to think of for this is either illogical or not reasonable. But he winds up getting superpowers related to Earth and has to learn to adapt to them without going overboard, because he's still grieving a cat. So, yeah.
Okay. So right now, I think the biggest thing I'm missing here is what was his name again?
Adam
Adam
is his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does Adam want? Like, what does he feel? Is he totally satisfied with his life before the cat dies?
Yes. He doesn't feel like he needs to meet new people. He figures, oh, if I just have my cat with me and my family by my side, that's all. I don't need any friends. I don't need to go out and meet people. I have my family, and that's all that matters.
Okay. So, yeah, okay. So then essentially when the cat dies now, is he wanting a new cat, or is he, cuz okay, I think right now what I'm seeing is there's not a clear desire for the character. You're saying the character is essentially whole. They are spiritually and physically whole when we meet them, and then the cat dies, and then they still are not gaining a want, right? You then have them, it's like you kind of have 2 beats here where the cat dies and this character Adam gets superpowers. Both of these things are things that are happening to Adam. He is not influencing the world around him, right? Because he has no desire. He has no desire, and therefore he is not influencing the world around him. So my first question would be, okay, if you want to give this character superpowers, and if you want this character to have something bad happen to them, at some point along this, a want must form for us to have a story. Whether that's like at some point within this flow, right? Whether it's before his cat dies, whether it's before or after he gets superpowers, at some point he needs to want something. He wants to do something with the powers. He wants a new cat. He needs to have something, because if he does not desire something, he is the Buddha. He is whole, and there is no story, right?
Right, it's just a plot.
Well, it's not even that, because plot requires want. Plot requires desire. So what does Adam want?
Okay.
What would you say Adam wants?
I'd like to say what Adam wants is to see, this was part of the problem. I didn't exactly know what he wanted.
Sure.
At first I thought, oh, he just wants new friends. Like, guess what? That can be solved in 5 minutes.
Can it be?
And then
How can you solve it that fast?
Oh wait, no, he's antisocial.
People struggle to have friends. These things
Yeah,
are not so
yeah, you're
simple.
right.
But that's a decent
Right.
That's a decent want, right? So if his cat dies, now he has a new desire. He wants friends.
To find someone else to because I don't think he'd want a new cat because the cat was extremely special to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the fact that he'd have a new cat would honestly just, if he got happy by the fact that he has a new cat and forgot about the old one, that would not be, that I don't think that would work. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like what I essentially just, um, hmm. Yeah, you're right. I do want him to make friends. I do want him to be social, but if I want that, what do the superpowers have to do with anything?
Right. Yes. So that's the other question here, where this is absolutely
Yeah.
a piece right now that is disconnected from the other elements. Now,
Right.
you can definitely find a way to bring it in. So I guess one way to do it, just based on the elements I'm looking in front of me, is maybe he wants new friends. He tries to go get new friends, and yeah. So I think there's just elements we need to decide here. Okay.
Okay.
How could his desire of him wanting new friends end up with him gaining superpowers? That's an interesting question. What do you think?
Yeah,
Jason?
it is.
Just
I think
spitballing.
Sure. The ideas are bad. Will probably be bad, but that's fine, right?
Totally fine,
This
dude.
isn't even a.
We're
Yeah.
just story building, right? There is no right answer
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah, of course.
So let's say I'm gonna say in the beginning, Adam doesn't really have a desire. Our 3 is that his cat dies, and this kind of creates.
Yeah, that's the inciting incident.
Right, then creates his want, which is he wants new friends, which we can do it that way.
Right.
So.
But then there's the whole issue with the superpowers again.
Well, here's what I'm thinking though. If you want to have this end, so now he's gonna. I think our adapt. If you're able to see the stream here, is that he is.
I am.
To my screen here is that he's able to. He's essentially he takes some action here to meet people. Right.
Yes.
So I don't know exactly what you want this to be. Maybe he goes to some event. Maybe also this is where your other part of your character web can be involved, right? Does he have a mother who tells him, "Oh, you need to go to this place to meet more people"? Now, essentially, the 5 would be that he goes to some sort of like event where he could meet people. This is super vague, which I don't love, but just getting us started here. He goes to some sort of event so that he can meet people. Then I think at this event where he goes to meet people, something happens to him, and we essentially have our Peter Parker getting bit by the spider moment, where I think maybe a person there, like gives him powers, and I think it could even be, it could be like intentionally or. Like they're trying to hurt him or they're trying to prank him or something like that, but this person that is super in some way inadvertently gives him powers, and then now we have this character that we essentially have like the super powered loner kind of character, right? Where now the whole story becomes him trying to gain friends, and if you wanted to, this is kind of I'm almost seeing a version of your story where maybe this character, he gains powers and now he can do things like save people or help people or these sorts of things, but he continues to struggle being antisocial. Like his superpowers don't make him social. His superpowers don't bring him new friends. And so he's this character with all this quote unquote power, yet at the same time, he's still struggling to get what he wants. And to me, that could be kind of an interesting way you could tell a like superhero sort of story.
Yeah. And in fact, Tyler, that's actually what I was intending. I was intending for Adam to get superpowers, but he would not use them. Like the initial thing that I did with this was valuing others versus valuing yourself. That's the philosophical conflict and how to find the right balance between them. But unfortunately, I never really found a good way to incorporate that into this. So, but I did not want to have Adam just be, going out there and being the godlike, what's it called, the Messiah? I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that.
To me, you
But
essentially have like a Superman character that is antisocial and he cannot get the thing that he wants, which is friends, right? So, which
yes.
is, I think that could be an interesting story for sure.
Yeah.
And so then it's just, okay, what is it about him that what makes him struggle? How does he attempt to make friends? How is he, and you can have this loop, right? This sort of story circle loop where it's Adam saves someone, helps someone, does something like this, and then thinks that like maybe the person he saved is going to be his friend, but then they are a real life person and they want to go back to their life, right? They get saved by this super heroic person, but then they want to go do their own thing. Or then it's like he has to deal with people that are, unsavory or trying to use his fame as a superhero or his name, and now it's fake friends, right? Like fake allies, right? This is someone who is acting like a friend to his, but is not really.
When I initially do you remember when I told you that I had this big superhero team project that I was doing?
Yeah, I remember.
Initially, that was exactly what I was going for. The consequences of actually being a hero that, you can't really trust anybody because you're seen as something you don't actually, want to be. That's pretty much exactly what I wanted to tell.
Cool.
Before I joined the server, before I met everybody here.
Excellent.
So, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, man, I think you tell that story.
All right. Well, back to square one, essentially.
Yeah, hopefully this is helpful to you. Just kind of getting a sense of getting started. I think this circle is essentially kind of like your act one, right? Like, this is what gets us out the door here. He wants, he wants new friends. We have him as kind of antisocial character. He wants to just be by himself until he loses his one friend, right? He loses the cat. This is his one friend.
Yeah, he loses the cat.
And now he must go searching for friends, and this begins this super big story. I think that works.
Yeah. That honestly sounds amazing. It to me it kind of feels like, what's a loner superhero, if you know any?
I mean, does Batman count? I don't really know.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like Batman is like he has the butler, Alfred, right? So, but I don't think he needs to work with it. I mean, he has the Justice League, but I don't really think he needs them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd like to say this. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I think for you, I would love to see you, like, I think your next step with this story would simply be, I would love to see you think about the characters here, and I would love to see you think about who is the initial characters in his world, right? You mentioned family. I would definitely bring these characters out.
Yeah.
And then I think, what is the exact event that he goes to meet people, and who at that event ends up giving him superpowers, because that character, the character that gives him the powers, is going to be a important character for the entire story going forward, I think. Right? This is going to be like a major antagonist or somebody in the world that is definitely involved on the whole superhero side. Maybe that ends up being the first person he has to take down.
Yeah, exactly. And that is pretty much also what I was going for. I was going to have the antagonist be someone who would get their own project as well. So basically, you remember Loki, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
So kind of like that, like you know how in the Avengers Loki was the villain, and then through his own show he became he went through a redemption arc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, kind of like that, except I'm pretty sure it'll be less complicated. There won't be any time travel.
Yeah, Jason, I think
I
this
hate
is
time travel.
Me too. I think this is a great. I think this is a great start to the story. I would love to see you come back with maybe with some more written out about kind of this first act and some of these characters and what's going on there. So thanks for hopping on today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Tyler.
For sure. All right, let's see who's next here. Niou saves a beautiful girl. He could save a beautiful girl, Matthew. Hey, how are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Doing well, man. What's your question today?
Good. English is not my native language, so I may say a few words that are not like right. But my question is, in a story, you have a philosophical conflict,
Mm-hmm.
but like, what difference does it make if you at the end make it like a negative ending or a positive ending? If I mean, I could do an ending that says what I think about the philosophical conflict,
Mm-hmm.
but I could do it with a positive ending, and I could do it with a negative ending,
Mm-hmm.
like through positive character arc, or through a through I don't know the name, but the one that in X-Men, you have a video of the X-Men,
Mm-hmm. Like
which is
corruption
a
arc?
negative arc, but
Fall
I
arc?
don't remember the. Huh?
Fall arc or a corruption arc, something like that.
Yes, a full arc.
Okay.
I could do it through both. So what I mean, what my question is, how do I choose which type of arc I do?
Good
If at the
question.
end
Yeah.
the philosophical,
So
it's gonna be clear, the philosophical conflict is gonna be clear either way, I think.
okay. Well then, yeah. At that point, then it just comes down to, without taking a look at the story, because I don't have it in front of me. I think it just comes down to what if you feel like both can work, then yeah, both can work. It just depends on how you want to set it up. Now, I think. Why are you giving your protagonist a fall arc, or you're giving your protagonist a positive arc? Like, that's the choice, because those are going to be very different for the story.
Yeah, like, look, the story is about like a survivor that does anything to survive, including like sacrificing or certain things.
Okay.
Like, for instance, if she has food, she doesn't share it with someone that needs it, because her main goal is to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So along the story, um, she can learn that there are things like protecting someone you love. It could be even more important than own survival, or she could at the end make the choice to, even though she meets someone that she loves, she still decides to sacrifice that person in order for her to survive.
Okay.
So in that case, she would like see she would believe a lie, then find the sort of truth, but then she sticks with the lie in the case of the full arc.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I would say: if you have like how your the end of your story plays out, and in this case, whether your character has a fall arc or whether they have a change arc, positive change arc, that is going to be the most important thematic moment of the story, right? So if they have a fall arc, then you are showing this character essentially make the wrong decision and fail, correct? Or you have the positive arc, which is they change, make the right decision, and succeed. So yes, both of those can absolutely work, because both of those are essentially saying the same idea, but viewing it from either the negative side or the positive side. But you are arguing the same idea, which was, you know, in the positive arc, they make the right choice, and that was the right choice, and they succeed. And then in the fall arc, they make the wrong choice, right? They make the opposite choice of that right choice, and they fail, again showing you as the writer believe the other way, right? You believe in that other choice. So yes, you are saying the same thing. It's just a different way to express it, and that just comes down to how you want the feel of your story to end, right? Do you want this to be more of a tragedy, or do you want this to feel more like an uplifting story? That's up to you.
Okay, thanks. I like more the negative.
Sure.
I don't know why, but it's just a preference thing.
Well, you can definitely try it out and see how it works for your story. I think that's good to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
For sure. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who we've got next in the line. I think it's Daniel 1229. Hey, Daniel. What's your question
Hey,
today?
can you hear me?
I sure can.
Cool. So I think, I don't know if I'm struggling with my philosophical conflict, like what the two viewpoints should be. And maybe I don't know if I'm just confused at it or if I'm confused at what it is as a whole. But
Okay.
my first part of it is viewpoint 1 and 2, is viewpoint 1 like always going to be the protagonist and 2 is always going to be the antagonist?
Sure. Most of the time, yes.
Okay. So if viewpoint 1, like let's just say that that's the protagonist viewpoint, would that mean that the viewpoint 1 is essentially their lie?
It can, yes. Yes.
Okay. So let's say, like, obviously in my, for the sake of a story, you're trying to, at the end, say what you believe about the matter. So if viewpoint 1 is the lie, then could the truth that I'm trying to portray be any one of the 4 corner opposition viewpoints or anything, pretty much?
So it will probably... Okay. So you're asking... I'm just trying to get super clear on what you're asking. So you're saying...
Yeah.
The truth... Are you asking me which character is representative of the truth in your 4 corner opposition?
I guess. So, like, if viewpoint 1 is the lie of my character, or it can be, at least I think it is in mine, but I want to tell, a viewpoint that's different than what my character believes, I guess, where would that line on the 4 corner opposition? Because at the... I guess I see what you're saying. If viewpoint 2 doesn't have to be the antagonist, it could be the truth that I want to say. But I guess I don't know where the antagonist would fit in then.
Right.
Because, like, obviously that's like the major negative force.
Totally.
Or not force, but, yeah.
Totally. So I think there's kind of 2 different ways that this can work as I currently have this. And this is also something that I'm actively working on. So, like, if I change my opinion here, then that's kind of why. So Okay, if you can you see my screen right now?
1 sec. Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of like, I've been working on this, and I'm pretty sure this is like for a sort of normal, positive change arc story, right? And I'm trying to just give us a baseline to start with here. It's usually gonna feel something like this, where we've got your protagonist believes the lie in the beginning, and they are also a good guy. So there's kind of like there's two elements to this where, like, your protagonist is under the lie, and then but they are a good guy, right? They see themselves right on the right side here. The antagonist usually is their mirror. Like when you hear people talk about how a character mirrors another, that can kind of happen in one of two ways. So if you're looking at my screen here, the antagonist can either be like within the lie of the protagonist, but just from a different perspective, right? Like they have information the protagonist doesn't have, or something like this that puts them in conflict, even though they kind of believe the same thing. And then, many times the protagonist doesn't realize that they believe the same thing. Or the antagonist can be over here as like the representation of like the dark side of the truth, right? So
Right. Okay.
I think there's the way that you can think about this is you are splitting this by who is under the lie and who's under the truth. That's one, right? But then there is this nature of like, okay, who's on my team and who's on the other team, right? Like that's the other thing here. So this is how you can have a character that like let's say to use Star Wars as an example, if you had a character that was part of the Empire but believed in the Jedi, right? Or wanted, wish the Jedi would return or whatever, but they are still working within the Empire, right? Something like that. Well, now they are a bad guy, but they have the truth, right? So that might be a fake opponent character, right? Because they are on the opposing side concept-wise, externally, yet they believe something that is part of the truth, that kind of thing. And so I think when you're trying to figure out, okay, where do my characters stand, like your character can be pushed in kind of two ways. So in The Dark Knight, I think it's our protagonist is Batman, right? And then the Joker is over here. The Joker is the holder of truth in the story, right? Joker actually, out of any character in the story, is the most sort of truthful in the sense of, it's somewhat, but it's kind of complicated. But in the sense of, he is saying the system that Batman is upholding is broken and doesn't work because they aren't actually using the law system. They're using Batman, right? And so he is being truthful in that, and therefore he is challenging Batman from this position on the character web. But then you have something, I know I've talked a lot about Snowpiercer, which I also think is worth watching. And Snowpiercer is more like this, I'm pretty sure, as is my current understanding, because both Curtis, the protagonist of Snowpiercer, and Wilford, the person that Curtis is trying to kill, both of them believe that they must that the train is absolutely necessary. They must have the train, and that there is no world outside of the train, right? And this is an allegory for our sort of like global capitalism now, and the argument sort of being like, okay, there's someone within the system that wants to kill the guy at the top, but all they want to do is uphold the system with a different guy. And so they are both under the same idea that, hey, we need this system to serve for all of us to survive. And then you have characters on the other side that are saying, no, we have to leave the train entirely. Like this is actually an evil system. We cannot keep this. We must try something else. And so therefore, then the protagonist, antagonist actually hold the same view.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like looking at it from the lens of truth and lie. And then I kind of just place So for the, because I think I was maybe looking too much in the realm of like protagonist, antagonist, which is still important. Like, but the way your diagram there is pretty perfect. So it's kind of like I figure out where my antagonist is in relation to the truth or lie, and where my antagonist, or my protagonist and antagonist, and where they each are in relation to the truth and the lie, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I think that somewhat makes sense. Because for I think I remember talking to you, which I think leads to my next question. Or did you have more on that?
No, go for it.
So I talked to you a couple of times. My story was the isolationist like lady, woman, mother who's afraid, never like leaves the house and stuff like that.
Yes,
And,
I remember
yes,
this.
Okay. So I remember we were talking about like creature, to have a creature and a knot or whatever. So I was thinking about it, and I don't think I will do that. So I like have a creature. So I'm gonna have, I think, some kind of human antagonist.
Okay.
So I'm having trouble on if I'm even clear with my philosophical conflict. So would you say that the philosophical conflict is almost like the question and the viewpoints are just like the answer to it? Or is...
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I feel like I'm confused on what question I'm asking, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you can help me cut through some of my lack of clarity.
Sure.
So I feel like I don't know if, or maybe I'm asking the same question, I'm just doing it in a bad way. But I feel like, so here, can I run through like two options I have for my four-corner opposition, or at least what I'm thinking it is. They might suck, but anyway. So the first question, I suppose, would be, how do you handle like the existence of evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first would be the character's lie, which is overcoming it, so to speak, using like avoidance or whatever at any cost. The opposing view would be evil can't be overcome at all, and so like essentially it wins. And then there's like overcoming evil using evil, or overcoming evil using good, which personally, where I'm at in my story, or actually, yeah, so that's one. Should I go on to the next batch of four-corner opposition?
Well, here, let's pause and let's talk about this first. So when you're talking about avoidance, this was really clear for me immediately. How do you handle the existence of evil? You can avoid it. This, I think the viewpoint too is where I think things got hazy, because you want your other viewpoint, like kind of how I was talking about the yin and yang idea. You want your other viewpoint to be like directly connected to it. So in a sense, it's like, what is the opposite of avoidance? What would be like confrontation, right?
Right.
So if you're going to do something like a character that is avoiding evil, then to me, the opposite is facing it, confronting it, having to look at it head on and go over it. Now that's one version of it. And then you also had, evil can't be overcome. The opposite of that would be like evil can be, but that's a little bit more vague. And then you also said overcome evil using evil, or overcome evil using good. Maybe that works. My issue with that one would be that evil is like overcoming evil using evil. I mean, so the idea would be like you have some sort of character that's trying to fight this in a dark way, which I think could work. So then maybe even this is just like two ways of confronting it, right? Where you have like, maybe that is now you're starting to get into your like four corner of like, okay, there's kind of your avoidance side, which is like, like total avoidance. And then I don't know what the other one would be, running from it or something. Or maybe it would be like, trusting God or having faith, in the sense of like, I'm avoiding it. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm just going to like, hope that it goes away and do a lot of praying or something like that. And then you have kind of avoidance total avoidance, or like, you know, this would be kind of like the positive or more side of it. And then you have confrontation. Okay, well, one would be, you know, like evil, so you're doing, you know, I don't know exactly how you want that to look, but and then ultimately, like, this becomes the more powerful, like, final truth of the story. Maybe you have it build out something like that. But when you're trying to figure out these two sides, I think we want them to feel like puzzle pieces. We want them to feel like they have that immediate connection.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think like maybe what might be holding me up, or maybe I just don't know how to integrate it, is that a aspect that I wanted to be big was sort of the like inevitability of evil, in that, you know, for instance, the main character is doing all she can to avoid it, and, you know, she's content in her little bubble, and so, you know, choices come up where there's a choice to double down or not, and she doubles down. And I guess what I wanted to be proven at some point to her was that it didn't matter how many different ways she tried, that at some point it would enter into her life whether she liked it or not. So I really kind of wanted that to be a big part of it. I just don't know how it fits, or if it does with that, or if I'm just looking at it wrong. But then, so like, the way I had it was, you know, she has an opportunity to confront it, evil, you know, a couple of different opportunities or a few, and she doesn't, you know, she doubles down, all this stuff. And then the sort of climactic choice would be eventually confronting it, of course. But then the final like confrontation would be, or what I was thinking was the aspect where the way that she confronts it is in the very end, like by sacrificing herself in order to, I don't know, save somebody or something. And that would be the sort of overcoming evil with good, because her act of sacrificial love or whatever for her family is what stopped the evil. And that was also her way of confronting it, but it was also good. So I guess I don't know how to, I have like all the ideas swirling around. I just don't know how to put them. Maybe, or could I run through the other one really quick? Because maybe that words it better.
I mean, I think that's pretty clear. If you're able to see my screen, either through the Discord or on the stream right now, like, this to me is fairly clear, right? You have our two big viewpoints are avoidance versus confrontation. We're dealing with this sort of inevitability of evil. It feels like you have a horror story here. And that's, to those of you that are writing horrors, a lot of the times thematically, horrors are essentially like there's a reason there's a lot of like let's say like Catholic symbology or these sorts of things in horror stories, because there's this nature of, are we going to fear the evil monster, or are we going to, you know, kind of what you're talking about, right? Overcome this monster, or not be afraid of it, confront it, you know, find the strength to do so, this sort of thing. Based on what I'm looking at and what you told me, I think this is pretty clear from a thematic philosophical conflict level. Because then to me, I feel like the next stage would be, okay, like we've got these two big categories. Now, who's the character that represents this piece? Who's the character that represents this? Who's the character that represents this? And now we can have now we're starting to build out like our web. And then we have, you know, and then you're still using the monster in this story, correct?
Oh, no, I was saying I probably wasn't going to.
Okay.
Yeah, what I was going to use is just going to be a person instead.
Okay. Yeah, so with this, you could go either way. I know last time we spoke, I was kind of like, oh, maybe you don't use a monster, but you are telling this is a theme that aligns nicely with that sort of like that, with the genre of horror. Like a lot of horror based stuff is, do we fear the monster, or do we trust ourselves or trust God or find our own strength to turn around and face that monster, because then now you're getting into like, okay, it's really the monster feeds off of the fear of the people or this sort of thing, where again, everything is sort of internal, and it's your internal change that gives you the strength to fight the thing in the external physical world.
Right. So where do you think, like, I guess I just wanted that to be a big theme about like the inevitability of it. So like, how do you think that fits in? Or do you think it doesn't have to be like a philosophical viewpoint necessarily? More so it's just said by the things that happen.
I mean, I think it's more just like a rule of the story, in the sense of you're saying like, evil is inevitable. It is coming. Therefore, what do we do about that? And that then creates these two viewpoints that we have, right? We know the evil is coming. So do we avoid it or do we confront it?
Right. I guess I just maybe thought my character's lie was that in her world, it wasn't coming, and that she was able to, by her control, wish it away, essentially, by the measures that she takes to stay separate from the outside world. So she kind of had this delusion that it wasn't there.
I totally agree.
So
I think that's part of the lie that she has sitting in the avoidance viewpoint. Is like, so she says, I am going to avoid this, and therefore she's saying, no, it's not coming, right? That is stemming from that viewpoint.
Okay. So in the world, though, she wouldn't be the one that's saying, like, it's coming. Other people, I guess, would be, but she's not.
Correct.
Gotcha. That's probably the only thing that I'll have to relook at, because I think that maybe I was clearer than I thought, but I didn't really, I wrote a good portion of it. Mm-hmm. I haven't really written any of it with the character of the viewpoint of overcoming evil with evil, or fighting evil with evil, just because I didn't know if I wanted to go that way initially, like, because it seems like a big it's not a rabbit trail, but it's like it would be a bigger portion to like kind of dive into that, I feel like. So I guess I'd have to think about it, but it seems very fitting, like I don't know, like, I guess it fits into the four corners pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because my only other, I guess that makes sense, because I didn't really have because I guess without that I'm kind of lacking something. Okay, give me stuff to think about. I'll definitely have to rewatch this and go over it slowly, but I think that helps me out, because I think I've been running into some walls because of that. I think that probably helped me realize it.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Yeah. I like what you've got here. I think this can really be good. I see very clearly a four-corner opposition within this.
Sweet.
And I think that, like, you can have this nature of, as it feels like it's actually, because, so when she has this lie that, like, okay, the evil is not coming, people cling to our lies, right? We refuse to see the truth that is in front of our faces. And so then when you're building that into a character, that is believable because it is what we do. And so that could also be a point where, like, when she's in this kind of, like, when her consciousness is literally kind of being split with this lie, where the evidence of the evil is coming is starting to get overwhelming, but she doesn't want to admit it. To me, that is where she approaches this character, right? Where her first response, once she starts to realize, like maybe this is even our 2B kind of character here, where once she realizes, oh my gosh, it's coming, and she's still operating out of fear of this evil, now she's going to the character that is also evil to say, hey, like, we need to stop this, before she, let's say, in a change arc, ultimately ends up here in the overcome evil using good.
God, so it's almost like the existence of evil kind of like increases over time, as and of course she'll have to make choices and whatnot. And then you're saying that characters can kind of be inserted as, for instance, evil with evil can be inserted as the threat of real evil gets more real.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm definitely gonna look at this and screenshot it and all that stuff, because it makes me feel a little better, because I felt like I was really stuck. So hearing you say it's maybe working a little bit, it helps me some.
Yeah, I like what you've got here. I definitely see a story forming. I think what you've got here is good.
Cool. It's funny because now I kind of have backed off the creature thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I may just end up sticking with a human, because you are right in one thing, whether or not a creature works. I, for one, don't like horror as a genre anyways. Like, I've probably seen like one horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny that it is thematically like a horror.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't like, because I feel like when you hear horror, like things come, like certain images and like stereotypes come to your mind, and I hate those. So like,
sure.
I hate even like saying that. But also I agree with you when you say that humans are like the scariest thing. And obviously my beliefs are like in this story, and whenever I think of the story and what all of that stuff, what scares me the most about anything is humans and like what they can do. So like,
totally,
I think I might just end up sticking with that.
Cool, man. Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah,
thanks for hopping on today.
Cool. I appreciate the help.
All right, let's keep rolling here. I think it's Yaya. Is that how you say that? Let's invite to speak, and we'll see where it goes.
Hey.
Hello. What's your question
Hey,
today?
can you hear me?
I sure can.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. My name is Jaja. From kind of like Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars.
Okay, cool. Jaja.
So my question is, so I'm trying to do my first short film.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to stick to the rules to keep it simple to 1 or 2 locations.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate your work, so I just wanted to hear what you think about it.
Okay.
So basically, I have the script right in front of me. I'm just gonna go through the beats.
Okay.
Real quick, if it's okay. So it's about a guy. He wakes up in the morning. He packs all his stuff. We see that it's a washing day, so he takes his clothing to the washing saloon. Yeah. So on the way there, we see that he dislikes smoking because there are people right next to him smoking cigarettes, and he's pulling his t-shirt over his nose not to inhale the smoke. So he's just on his bike riding to the store to wash his clothes. And then all of a sudden he sits down, listens to his music, and he gets lost in the spinning motion of the machine.
Okay.
And as he is losing himself in this motion, he picks up a box of cigarettes that is lying next to him that someone put there. And so someone comes into the store, sits down next to him, puts a pack of cigarettes next to him, and then he receives a call of the other person. And so he stands up, leaves the cigarettes, and just standing next to the window and talking on the phone. And our main character loses, gets distracted by the spinning motion, as I said. And he then all of a sudden picks up the box of cigarettes, takes one out, lights it up, and we see the other person noticing it and confronting him and saying something along the lines, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you mad? Why are you smoking in here?" Stuff like that. And then we didn't see the person's face until now. So now the protagonist is looking up, at the person screaming at him, and he sees his own face in the person. So he's screaming at himself. Now he snaps. He runs out of the store to his home, and now, as I mentioned this, I forgot at the beginning. So he's having breakfast and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in Germany, I'm from Germany, and in Germany we have a saying that goes something like, "Do you have all your cups in your cupboard?" And it means, are you insane, basically? So if you don't have all your cups in your cupboard, you lost your mind, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's running to his home, really hectic. Opens his cupboard and see all the cups that we saw earlier are gone.
Okay.
So he basically lost all his cups. He lost his mind. And now he's on this mission to go to the store, pick up some new cups, and tries to basically keep his life together. So now that he finishes up, puts all the cups in his board, and tries to reconnect to life as he's losing his mind. He thinks he fixes it, and now he's going back to the washing machine, to the washing machine store, picks up his clothing, and the last shot that we see is one of the washing machines filled with all the cups that we saw earlier that got stolen out of his cupboard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably I'm starting shooting in April, and it's gonna be like 3 to 5 minutes maybe. It's like a 4-minute shot.
Okay.
And
you're shooting this?
Just want to again.
You're shooting this. Do you have a crew and everything ready to go?
Yeah, so I have most of the equipment because I'm working with like how do you call it? It's like a small it's like I don't know, in German we call it Verein. It's like an organization of people who works with younger people to make something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have all the equipment, and I can borrow it from them, basically for free. And I have like 2 to 5 people that I talk to, and I want to make this happen, this project. So right now I'm like looking at a lot of your videos and other YouTubers to figure out my how to handle all the stuff. But for now I'm stuck with the script. I wrote it in like 1 day. So I came up with the idea at 7 in the morning. Then I wrote down in bullet points. And then the next day I wrote the script. And basically I just wanted to ask you if you have any, I don't know, anything to add, any critique, because I showed it to a few of my friends, but I'm afraid that they are too nice to be honest about, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so so you're shooting this, and you're shooting this soon, which tells you, and so, okay, I have some feedback for you. I want you to kind of brace yourself a little bit, because I have some, I would say, a little bit harsh feedback for you.
No, goals, please don't hold back.
So here's what I would say, right? And I have made these kinds of shorts as well. I have shot them. I really should like put one up that I've made or see where it's at. I don't even know if I've got it on my YouTube channel anymore, but like, okay. So what I would say about this short is that it is a classic short film script. Now, what I mean by that is, when I say this is a classic short film script, I mean that there is no antagonist, that is about a guy who sees himself, loses his mind, and that we have kind of a convoluted plot where we got a lot of emotionality and some interesting ideas, but not really a ton of clarity or structure. Now, I think, totally, I totally think that you shooting this and making this could be good for you in the sense of it's going to give you some strong experience on the production side and these kinds of things. But I from the script perspective, I think this is something that I have seen many times over, and it's kind of what everyone tries to write as their first short script, which is the one character losing his mind and seeing himself. I literally have. Let me see if I can find my short where I did this, because everyone does it. So I'm not trying to rag on you or anything like this, but I'm just
no, and I completely understand. I mean, I really am desperate for criticism, and even if it's like destroying me, I'm desperate because everyone is like, yeah, it's super nice, but I know there are flaws, and I need people to bounce ideas,
Totally. Yeah, and I would say that, like, here's the thing. I think that, like, the two most basic things I would add to the story is at least one other character that can be an antagonist. Because I think one of the biggest issues with shorts is that everybody wants to make them one character shorts, and that is very rarely that compelling. And that most of the time it's actually better to have something that is at least two characters that can actually push against each other. Oh, I do have it. Okay, great. Actually have characters that can push against each other rather than having it just be one character by themselves kind of losing their mind. So this is actually, while we're on the topic, this is my kind of one character short where one character talks to himself here. I don't think it's worth playing the whole thing because it's kind of boring and slow and 5 minutes long. However, this character here is essentially, he sees himself. So, yeah, so it's a hallway full of people, then he comes out, then there's nobody, and it's all creepy, and you don't really know what's going on, which is, par for the course in shorts. And then he just kind of comes down here. This is a totally different thing that also doesn't make a ton of sense. Where is it actually at? Okay, here we go. Yeah, so he comes into this room here at like 2 minutes into the short. And he just sees himself, right? And it's one of these.
Oh no, this is mental.
Yes.
Here he is talking to himself. And this is like, and I did this short mainly for this effect. I saw this effect on YouTube of like,
I control you.
This is back in, 7 years ago? So this is, I wanted to do it kind of for this effect here. But yeah, I would say that, like, my one absolute note, the most important note I could possibly give you is give him another character that is the opposing force, so that the story is not in this character's mind, right? So that the story is actually expressing itself through the elements of the characters acting in the world, rather than this being just through the mind of a single character.
Okay, I see.
Because also, when you have it of like this character that's kind of losing his mind, there's not really much of a dilemma here, right? There's not really like choices being made. It's more just a character is losing their mind, and we're seeing a lot of just like a sort of emotional beats around that.
Yeah, so my idea, so I didn't have like this one idea that I wanted to put out there. It was more like, hey, okay, I have all the stuff to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just try to script the movie to and check, okay, what do I have, what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to do something I don't know, more psychotic, you know, not nothing, you know, more, I don't know, human like nothing very special, no special effects, just like one person, and I don't know, living in this big city, maybe inspire itself or something. So this was the criteria I wrote the script on. I'm really thankful for your advice. It's rather difficult to find. For me, it's like I have this like I want to create something, but I don't have the. It feels like I don't have the voice yet, you know. So that's why I also learned now to, because I see you clearly. You know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. So I'm really thankful for that. Then there, a few days ago, also I don't know why, but I always get these ideas like crazy early, because I stay up. I don't know, until 6 in the morning, and then I get out of the sun this idea. So I had another one. I didn't write anything. It's just like also this kind of idea. Can I talk to you about it real quick, or would you like to move on to the next person? I totally understand also.
Yeah, I'm gonna take one more person today, and then we're probably gonna wrap the stream up here. So, thank you for bringing your short forward. Let me know if you end up going ahead and shooting it. I think
Yes.
the thing that I noticed about your the thing that I noticed about the story is like you have the whole cigarettes element where he doesn't like the cigarettes or something like that. If I was gonna make one change, it would be make that a character, right? It's like the character who smokes and bothers him, or like I think two characters is way better than one, because then we can actually have a protagonist, antagonist, and we can have a bit more of a dilemma. We can create some scenes with some more clearer choices.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, continue to write, continue to you're totally right about like, you mentioned trying to find your writer's voice, and that just takes time, right? And it takes time to figure out the story that you really love, and I wouldn't so much worry about finding that perfect story right now, but yeah, just keep writing, keep working on it, and that will serve you best.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, totally.
And I really appreciate all your work.
I appreciate you
really
hopping
awesome.
onto the stream.
Thank you.
All right. I think Mr. Morden is next in line here, and this will probably be our last today. We're coming right up on. Been streaming almost 3 hours. That's great. It's been a good stream back. Let's see if Mr. Morden is here. Hey, Mr. Morden, can you hear me? You are currently muted.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
I sure can. What's going on, man? What's your question?
Awesome. So basically, there's a script I've been working on for a couple years, and I'm essentially 2/3 of the way through.
Okay.
And I'm coming up to the climax. And without giving too much away, the script or the film basically argues kind of around the subject of free will, and whether like you have the right to stop somebody for doing something that's potentially or is dangerous to them, even if it's something they want to do. So my main character struggles with this dilemma, and where the story's at the moment is he's a character he's a high school character, and they're in the school auditorium, and he's up on the stage because subtlety, and he has two friends who are trying to talk him down, who are trying to, it's like a big confrontation. It's like the final confrontation. And
what is he trying to
one
do?
of them
What is he trying to do that's going to harm him?
Oh no, his thing is he's kind of the character's kind of fed up with kind of seeing like all the problems in the world that come out of bad decisions, and he sees friends and family making bad decisions, or at least what he perceives as bad decisions, things that could either harm them or just generally bad for them, or there's a better way to do them. So he kind of sets out to right the wrongs himself, and kind of takes it upon himself to be like, so his motives are good. He's not a villain character. His motives are good, but he definitely does go too far in places. He definitely like goes, to the point where it's like you're basically taking over for the other person. They might as well be, a robot and kind of thing. So at this point in the story, he's being confronted by two of his friends. One who completely disagrees with him, and the other one who kind of sees his point of view, but definitely recognizes he's gone off the rails with it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to devise an ending that doesn't fall on a definitive opinion on the question of the movie. And it's very difficult, because how do you write a final conflict when you don't want to have a definitive answer, where you want to let the audience go, who's right? Is he right? Because that's why I included three people in the final confrontation. You have both extremes and then kind of the moderate. And then so it's like I want the audience to make up their minds. Like I think I've done a fairly good job throughout the script, kind of presenting the different perspectives a bit, but this is like supposed to be like the final like that, and I don't want him to technically, I guess I'm not even sure what term you would use for him, whether I don't quite think he falls into anti-hero territory, because he it's really hard to explain without going over the whole plot of it. For example, I'll give one example. The character in the play or in the script has a grandmother who's dying from a medical condition, but there is a treatment that could save her, but she doesn't want it. She's at peace with it. She's pretty old. Her opinion is like she's lived her life. She's made peace with this, and he finagles the situation to kind of make her get the procedure anyways, even though it's not what she wanted, but because he doesn't want to lose her. Like, his intentions are good. They're like, it's not born out of any kind of like malice, because I was like, I didn't want it to be like it.
If I could hop in here, I think you mentioned that you want to set this up at the end where you don't make a definitive decision in the story and you let the audience decide, correct?
Yeah.
So with that, the best way to create... So, okay, here's what I have found, right? Let's even just step away from story for a bit and just talk about, like, what goes viral on the internet, right? And why do things go viral on the internet? The reason that discussion happens is because a character, or let's say like a person online or whatever, has made a definitive decision, and now the audience or the viewers now are going to debate the decision that was made, because without a definitive decision made, there is really nothing to discuss. However, if you have your character make that definitive decision, well, now the audience is going to have all sorts of perspectives and opinions on the choice that was made. And so I think that what I have found is, if you want, like, it's not, I don't think you should make it like open-ended, like there is not a clear choice. I think there should be a clear choice, and then that clear choice will then be debated by the people who read or watch your story. And that is really what sparks debate. That's what sparks conflict. That's why, you see some sort of controversial, thing about something controversial happen to somebody online, and now you have all these people that want to talk about it, right? Back and forth. Why? Because something has actually happened. A choice has been made, and now we are having a discussion about a choice that was actually made, rather than being like, hey, no choice was made, and therefore there is nothing to discuss, right? Like, it just becomes abstract, and then you're not like, there's not really anything to actually have a discussion about. And so I think by making your character take a definitive action, make a definitive choice, that is what will spark the audience's discussion.
Oh, okay, because that's the thing, is like he finagles it so she gets the procedure anyways. I have a scene where he goes into a room and she's really upset. She's crying and upset because that's not what she wanted. That's not. So it's initially what I was thinking, if I had to make a thing, okay, he's wrong for what he did, maybe end it with him watching some sort of tragedy on the TV screen or something, and being melancholy, kind of, where it's okay, he stopped doing what he was doing, but he still laments, the bad choices people are making.
That's just one way to do it.
Yeah.
I think with the character you have, I think it would be interesting if he tries to, either this is your climax or your midpoint, I'm not sure, but I think it would be interesting if
it's my climax.
Well, the idea that I'm positing towards you might be more of your midpoint versus your climax. But I think that this character should take an action to overrule someone else for their own good, right? So if your theme is about this character questioning, okay, do I overrule somebody and do something that is for their own good even if they don't want it, we need to see him do that. Right? Whether at the midpoint and then he gets punished for it, or at the climax, because then if he does that in this specific situation you set up, now this is what the audience is going to debate. Should he have done that? Why should he not have done that? And what does it mean? And all of that. And then what is the way to take care of people if they don't want your help in this way, right? And so now you are having your character make a choice, and that is what sparks debate. The character making a definitive choice is what's going to spark the debate, not your character thinking about it and not actually making that choice.
Yeah, that's why, with the final confrontation there, that's kind of why I set it up with him on the school auditorium stage, and the two in the they're down in the front row of the auditorium trying to talk to him. It was kind of for me, it was kind of trying to metaphorical, being the two people are supposed to represent essentially the audience, and the people who think he's completely wrong versus the people who think, well, maybe he's right, but by that point he's taken that definitive action and they've seen the damage, and they're even if you're in theory right, you are really going about this the wrong way. You are taking it way too far.
Totally.
It's just that I want him to. It's just at the end. First off, I don't want him to have a definitive fall. I don't want the character to die. I don't want him to be arrested for something. I don't want I want him to, after they talk him down, after they somehow resolve, I just want to to be able to present the end of him still going about his day, and maybe he's still kind of conflicted. It's just, I'm just worried what you said, where it's if I leave it too open-ended at the very end as to the morality, if like you said, it's going to be the audience is going to go well, what was the point then? If you're not going to pick a side, it's, if it's too ambiguous, sometimes I just kind of feel the audience is going to be oh well, then what was the point of watching? Kind of thing. Like it's too.
I would like it if you wrote out. I would love to see on paper or in a document. You actually write out what you think is going to be this final climax and how it's going to work. And then if you brought it back, then we could actually look very specifically at what that climactic choice should be and how to frame it in a way where we do get a definitive choice, but he also doesn't get arrested or something like that.
Yeah, no, because I looked at, if you've ever seen the first season of Jessica Jones, the Netflix thing about the character, there's a character on there who can control people just by talking to them. And I was like, I don't want him to go into the villainy, like that guy on the show. He's a direct villain. He's just telling everybody exactly what to do at exactly. I didn't want him to go completely into like that level of villainy. I want him to be like relatable and like redeemable in a way, and that like to be, that's what I mean. Like I'm having a hard time even thinking what to, other than calling him the protagonist, like another descriptor, because he just doesn't really fall into villain. He doesn't really fall into hero, because he definitely takes things
is
too
the
far.
hero of the story in the sense of we are following him. Now, hero in like the moral sort of framing of the word, maybe he's not, but I think really what this comes down to is a question about what your final climactic choice is. So if you could get a sense like written out to me, and then you could bring it back here and even place it in the chat here in the live stream stage chat, we could bring that document up on stream. I would love to see what you think of, like what your current ideas are going to be for that final climactic choice, and then we can use that to define how that should end, hopefully in a way that actually helps you write this story.
Yeah, that would be, definitely, because I've been agonizing. I've been agonizing over it for a couple years, and I think I've got like everything but the ending done. Like I think it's like very solid, the dialogue, everything. Like I've been like that. I think it's very solid. Just that ending. That's yeah. But yeah, no, I'd love to come back and bring that with me and get it, because right now it's in physical format. So I'd have to get it up on. I think I still have the original docs thing somewhere. I just have to find where it is. But yeah, no, I'd love to do that. Yeah, no, thank you. That was very helpful.
Perfect. Glad to hear it.
Awesome. It was nice chatting with you, Tyler.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for coming on to the stream.
Awesome. See ya.
See you next time. All right. I think that's going to be a good stopping point for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream today. I hope you learned something. I hope this has been helpful to you. I will likely be streaming at least one more time this week. I may be streaming tomorrow. I'll need to check if I can with scheduling and things like that. But I just want you guys to know I'm going to be streaming more regularly now going forward. And hopefully you guys will be able to learn something from the streams. So I will see you next time. Happy writing and have a great rest of your day.